Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm Frederick County Executive Jan Gardner, and joining me today is Mike Ramsberg, who's the Maintenance Section Supervisor in Public Works Highway Operations. Certainly a long title. How are you, Mike?
Very good. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you can start off by telling our viewers how long you worked for the county in highway operations.
I've been with highway operations for 30 years.
Wow. Okay. So I guess you know your way around the roads in Frederick County.
Pretty well, yes.
I bet. Well, we're here to kind of start talking a little bit about how our highway operations crews prepare for the winter season and the snow season. So can you tell us a little bit about what the county does in advance of winter?
Sure. Early on in the summer, the first thing to do is get all the paperwork in place, the contracts and the memorandums of understanding. And get closer to the fall, we want to make sure all the salt supplies and de-icing materials are stockpiled and in place. And the month of October, we go over all the equipment, both the contractors and the county owned, to make sure everything is up and ready to go when that first snow hits. We have a snow rodeo in October and a preseason interagency meeting in October. The purpose of the snow rodeo is to set up a course where the drivers will go through, and it's designed to simulate some of those maneuvers that they would typically make out on the road. And it's considered a training exercise, and our insurance carrier really looks at it favorably from that point of view. And it gets the guys in the mood for the winter season that's upcoming. And that interagency snow meeting, we invite State Highway and Frederick City, FCC, Fort Detrick, and all the divisions in the county. And Highway takes the lead. We go over what we plan on doing and what we expect for the upcoming winter, and then it's an open group discussion, what everyone else foresees and if there are any questions, and just to get everyone together.
Before a predicted storm, do you coordinate with the city and the state on what's coming up, or does everybody do their own thing?
A lot of times it's really doing your own thing during a normal storm. During a heavy storm, then that's when the communication opens up more between the state, the city, and the county. But we are in communication with Frederick Board of Education and FCC and some of the other agencies quite a bit during any storm.
Now, I know storms are different. Sometimes the public doesn't understand how we might do one thing for an ice storm or one thing for a heavy snowfall. Mm-hmm. And if we have a short burst of snow versus an extended period of snow. So can you explain to people what we do, what the approach is during an extended snowfall event?
Okay. Well, during a normal storm, most all the roads are treated the same. We do have a list of priority roads. It's a little over 200 miles. And if you go to the Frederick County Highway website, there's a link there where you can pull up a map and see those roads or get a list of those roads. So if it's a normal storm, the theory is we treat everything the same and we keep it passable during the storm and then clean up after the storm. But if it starts to snow heavier or we get drifting or ice or conditions dictate, we'll pull the trucks off of some of those secondary and subdivision roads and concentrate on the priority roads to keep those main routes open.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know when there is that prolonged snow event that usually they'll come through the residential neighborhoods and open a route to get out, but really the concentration is on those main roads because that's where most people are driving.
Exactly, yes, and by keeping those priority roads open, if there is an emergency in this corner of the county or this corner of the county, it's kind of the Christmas tree effect. You have that main route open and you can branch off to where you need to.
People can take their time getting out of their subdivision if they have to go somewhere.
Right. Well, that's another point. If the conditions are that bad, we don't really want to open all the side streets and get that extra traffic out on the road.
That's right. And of course, during a snow event, we do ask people to take their vehicles and park them in their driveways, get them off the road if they can, because that makes it easier for our snowplow drivers.
Right.
So there's a lot of maneuvering that has to go on. Particularly in cul-de-sacs.
Right, right. And, well, the snow emergency plan, when the snow emergency plan is in effect, they're not supposed to park on the road, and they're supposed to have either snow tires or all-season radials on the vehicles. And if you go to the Frederick County Highway website, there's a link there that takes you to the State Highway chart site. There's a lot of information on there about the weather conditions and the snow emergency plan. But Frederick County does not have a separate plan. When the snow emergency plan is put into effect, that's done by the Maryland State Police. and then the plan's in effect for both state and county maintained roadways. Frederick City does have a separate plan. And my understanding is the main thing Frederick City would like everyone to know is when they put their plan into effect, that does not necessarily mean that the parking decks are free. That's
Okay.
a point of contention for a lot of residents.
So, you know, everybody always wants to know what to expect in the upcoming winter season. Any predictions on what the weather looks like?
Well, earlier in the fall, there was a lot of talk about a Godzilla El Nino, and in this past weekend's USA Today, there was talk about correlation between snowfall in Siberia in October and how that will affect the snowfall in the northeast United States. And by the way, they had their heaviest snow this October and over the last decade. But in my opinion, a long-range forecast is really just a shot in the dark. It's so 50-50. I was raised to believe that you hope and pray for the best and prepare for the worst, and I still think that's a good course of action for both our operations and the residents.
Okay. So, you know, how do we decide in the county whether county government will be open or closed? And I know that also affects the city and the schools, and how is that coordinated?
Well, that's mostly a decision brought on by Superintendent of the Roads, Bill Routson, and he's out. He's one of the most dedicated employees in Frederick County, as you well know.
I do.
He's out when the first flake of snow falls or before, and he's on the road assessing the road conditions and getting feedback from myself and the area foreman. And we have a fairly sophisticated weather forecasting service in our office, and we take that information and pass it on up the ladder to have the final decision made. But the safety of the citizens is the main thing, and the county employees as to whether they should be out on the road, as to whether we want to close offices or go with liberal leave. And it seems to me like liberal leave has been the way to go lately, because there are people who live closer who can make it in, but
Right.
then we have employees that live in other counties or other states who have much farther to travel.
And we have a large geographic county, and there's different conditions in different parts of the county. And so depending on where you live can depend on your ability to get out. And the weather varies within the county, so I know you have to be prepared for that as well.
It varies greatly. Yeah, last year the first snow event was December the 4th, and the last event was March the 20th. And in between there were 40 days or portions of days when we were actively doing snow removal. And most people would say, I don't remember it snowing that much last year, but you're right. In the mountains at above 16 or 1,800 feet of elevation, it can quite often be snowing when it's raining down here.
Right. That always makes the how to call school off or close government a little bit more difficult.
Right, right.
So we do appreciate Bill Routson, because I know he just works throughout every weather event. He's out in the middle of the night driving all the roads, and he really gathers a lot of information for that morning decision.
Absolutely.
And he's always there. So I really do want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the good job that all of your staff does with snow removal. I think they do an excellent job, and I really appreciate that they're out there for extended hours during some of these longer events, snow events, and really are dedicated to keeping the community safe and keeping our roads travelable for the public. And you know, a lot of people have to go to work, whether if they work in a hospital or a nursing home, or you know, have some other job where they have to be there. So some people do need to get out on the roads no matter what the weather is.
Right.
And I think our crews do an excellent job, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's very much appreciated.
So do you want to provide any pointers for residents during a snow event?
During a snow event? Well, as you just said, if you don't have to travel, it's best to stay off the road, especially in the beginning of the event when things are just starting to happen. Once the trucks are out and have treated the roads, it's a little better. But the main number one thing is, if you do have to travel during an event, make sure that your speed matches the weather conditions. Slow down. Most accidents that happen out there are directly related to traveling too fast. And then the other thing is, please don't park on the street. That makes it so much more difficult, whether it's a street or a cul-de-sac. Makes it so much more difficult for the drivers to clear the snow.
So, Well, thank you for all you do. I know you're very well prepared for the upcoming winter weather, and I hope we have a year without too much snow or too much ice, because ice is much worse.
Absolutely, yes.
So thank you for joining us today, and to our viewers, we know the winter weather is coming, so be prepared and keep your cars off the road when we have a snow event, and be careful driving. Thank you for joining us today.